are some fears that never really leave you. You can outgrow the dark, outgrow old houses, outgrow the feeling that something is standing just outside the room. But some fears stay exactly where they started. At the end of a hallway, just beyond the last light, just past the place where your house stops feeling like yours. Tonight's story is about a man who had a habit. Tiny one. The kind of habit people build without thinking. Every night before bed, he would turn off the bathroom light, then the hall light, and then he would walk the last few steps to his bedroom in darkness. Just a few steps. That was all. A grown man in his own house crossing his own hallway. And yet, some nights he felt it. That old, stupid feeling. Like something was behind him. Not close enough to touch. Not loud enough to prove itself. But there. Somewhere in the dark. Watching him from the far end of the hallway. Waiting for the lights to go out. He never turned around. That's the part that matters. He never checked. Never looked over his shoulder. Never gave the darkness the satisfaction. He would hold his breath, take those last steps, slip into the bedroom, and calmly shut the door behind him. That was the ritual. That was how he stayed in control. And maybe that is why the story feels so heavy. Because fear is one thing when it stays in your head. When it remains abstract. Private embarrassment. A childish little superstition you can laugh at in the morning. But once fear moves, once it makes a sound, once it stops being a feeling and becomes something physical, it changes. According to the original post, that is exactly what happened one night. He turned out the lights like always. The bathroom first, then the hallway, and then, in the darkness, he sensed it again. Only this time, it didn't creep. It ran. That is such a small detail, but it changes everything. Because creeping gives you time. Creeping lets you pretend. Creeping still belongs to imagination. Running does not. Running means decision. Running means intent. Running means that whatever was waiting in the hall had finally chosen to cross the distance. I want you to picture that. A long dark hallway. No light. No face. No shape. Just the sudden sound of something charging toward you through your own house. Not stumbling. Not searching. Running straight for you. He barely made it into the bedroom in time. He slammed the door shut just as that thing hit it from the other side. The impact must have been horrible. Not a polite knock. Not a scrape. A full-body collision. With shuddering in the frame. Walls trembling. That instant when you realize the barrier between you and something else is much thinner than it should feel. He locked the door. Then he pushed his dresser in front of it. That image alone is enough to hold a whole story. A grown man in his bedroom, breathing too hard, hands shaking, dragging furniture across the floor while something outside throws itself against the door. And already, at that point, the situation is bad enough. But then the practical details begin. The kind of details that make horror feel real. His phone was still in the bathroom, charging. The window had security bars. He tried screaming out the window, but no one came. That is what makes certain stories terrifying. Not only the monster, the logistics, the trap, the realization that all the little normal choices of your day have quietly arranged themselves into a cage. Phone in the wrong room, window that won't open, door that won't hold forever, neighbors who can't hear you, and on the other side of the wood, something that does not get tired. The post says he kept yelling one thing. Go away. And every time he shouted it, that thing smashed into the door again. There is something deeply disturbing about that rhythm. His voice, then the crash. His voice, then the crash. Like communication was happening, just not the kind any human being could survive. And that alone would be enough for most horror stories. Man trapped in bedroom, creature in hallway, night that won't end. But then comes the line that turns fear into something worse. Because the narrator admits he doesn't actually want it to go away. He wants it to keep bashing the bedroom door. All night, if possible. Because as long as it is outside his room, it is not going anywhere else. And somewhere else in that house is his baby's room. That is the moment the story changes. Until then, it's about survival. After that, it becomes about sacrifice. because suddenly the bedroom is not safety anymore. It is a checkpoint, a barricade. His fear no longer belongs to him alone. It is standing between the thing in the hallway and a child who cannot protect herself. That twist is what made the original hit so hard. It's also what makes it perfect for a slower, darker narration. Because the real horror is not the creature. The real horror is that impossible choice. Do you stay alive and hold the line? Do you open the door and risk everything? Do you scream until you lose your voice just to keep it interested in you? Imagine the kind of night that becomes. No heroics, no clever ending, just endurance. The dresser pushed against the door, the wood groaning with every slam, the room getting smaller with each minute, your throat raw from shouting, your body exhausted, your mind doing the worst thing a mind can do under pressure, starting to imagine what happens if the sound suddenly stops. Because that is the threat hidden inside the story, not the crashes, the silence that might come after them. If it stops hitting the door, where does it go? How quietly does it move? How fast? Would you hear it enter the nursery? Would there be crying? Would there be footsteps? Or would the house just become still? The kind of stillness that tells you something irreversible has already happened? That is why the banging becomes almost comforting. Not safe, never safe, but trackable. As long as the door is shaking, the monster has not moved on. As long as the wood holds, something precious elsewhere in the house is still being spared. And that creates one of the darkest emotional traps in horror. The protagonist is terrified of the thing outside, but he also needs it to stay exactly where it is. He has to keep its attention, keep it angry, keep it focused. He is not trying to escape the monster anymore. He is feeding it just enough attention to stop it from wandering farther down the hall. That is such a cruel image. A parent trapped in a room using his own voice as bait. Not to save himself, to buy time. That is what makes this story linger. Not gore, not violence, not some complicated backstory. Just a hallway, a door, a dresser, and the knowledge that love can turn terror into a job you have to keep doing. And maybe that's why the hallway matters so much. Hallways are transitional spaces. They're not meant to be where things happen. They connect the important rooms. Bedroom, bathroom, nursery, light, darkness, safety, threat. A hallway is supposed to be empty, neutral, forgettable. But in stories like this, the hallway becomes the entire world. Because once something enters it, every room connected to it becomes part of the danger. Every door turns into a question. Every few feet of darkness become distance you may never be able to cross. The title, The End of the Hallway, feels almost gentle at first. But after the twist, it means something else. The end of the hallway is not a location. It is a consequence. It is the place where the thing goes if the door stops holding, if the voice stops shouting, if exhaustion finally wins. And exhaustion always comes. That's another part of the horror people don't talk about enough. The narrator is tired, terrified, but tired. He says he's too scared to sleep, too tired not to. That line is brutal, because it means the monster doesn't even need to break the door. Can wait, can keep crashing, keep wearing him down. Eventually his body will fail him even if the wood does not. That's the hidden countdown inside the story. Not a clock on the wall. A human nervous system. A parent trying to stay awake by force while something pounds the door again and again and again. I imagine the room changing as the night drags on. The air getting hot. The dresser inching with every impact. The scream in his throat growing weaker. Sweat. Splinters. That sickening pause between blows, where he listens harder than he has ever listened in his life. And beyond all of it, the unbearable awareness of the baby's room down the hall. Maybe there's a monitor somewhere. Maybe there isn't. Maybe the child is still asleep. Maybe not. But once that possibility enters the story, the whole thing becomes almost unwatchable in the best way. Because every parent, or anyone who has ever loved someone more vulnerable than themselves, knows exactly what that fear feels like. You don't need to see the monster. You don't need to know what it wants. the hallway becomes terrifying enough on its own. There's also something cruelly realistic about the narrator's behavior. He does not become some fearless action hero. He does what most people would do. He panics. He barricades. He improvises. He shouts nonsense because nonsense is all there is. And somehow that makes him more heroic, not less. Because courage in stories is often overwritten. Big speeches, big sacrifices, big moments. But in real fear, courage can look pathetic from the outside. A raw voice, a dresser shoved badly against a door, a man whispering please under his breath between louder screams of go away, and still holding the line, still not letting it reach the next room. That is a better kind of horror to me, the kind where the supernatural element is frightening, but the human element is what stays with you. A creature in the hallway is scary. A parent trying to keep that creature interested in him instead of his baby is devastating. And maybe that's why the ending lands so hard. Because the last sentence doesn't expand the world. It narrows it. It reduces everything to one awful truth. The danger isn't just outside the bedroom door. It's not finished. It has somewhere else to go. And the narrator knows it. So the whole story turns into one terrible prayer. Keep hitting my door. Keep hitting my door. Keep hitting my door. Because the second you stop, something worse begins. That is what makes a story like this work. It starts with a fear everyone understands. The fear of a dark hallway. And then it mutates into something much more adult. Responsibility. Helplessness. The knowledge that sometimes surviving is not enough. Sometimes survival means staying exactly where the nightmare can reach you, because someone smaller is behind you in the dark. And that may be the darkest part of all. Not that something is in the hallway, that the only reason it hasn't reached the nursery yet is because a terrified father is still awake enough to keep begging it to stay.